This is a Danger Entertainment podcast. DangerEntertainment.net. Danger Entertainment Podcast Network.
Life sucks to the last drop. Are you gonna blow your head off? Take good aim and don't forget to duck. Life sucks every Monday and all the way to Sunday, but I wouldn't have it any other way. I don't care how you're doing, what's up or how's it hanging. I'd like to buy this world one last drink. And life sucks all of the time. Stick it up your sunshine, and then you'll see the clouds every day. And then you'll see the clouds every day. And then you'll see the clouds every day.
Welcome to the Crazy Life, everyone. My name's Jen. I am your hostess for the evening. And with me, we have Brian and Hanno. Actually, Hanno is out having a fabulous time visiting family. So we wish him safe travels and cheap travels, because gas is crazy.
Yeah.
But, hopefully he's having a good time and all that jazz.
Yeah.
So.
I know while he's gone, he's got a gig he's playing, I believe, out there too. So hopefully, I'm sure that'll go well. But hopefully that's a lot of fun for him and all that. And I'm sure we'll hear about it when he comes back.
Absolutely. And if you get a chance, folks, go out to his Facebook page, because he's got a styling guitar that's just really, really freaking awesome.
Yeah.
It's like a pinkish, lilac-y, purpley, but it's all sparkly and stuff. It's a fabulous freaking looking guitar.
Yep.
I think he calls it Barbie or something. I don't know.
I don't remember. Yeah, I know he named it, but I don't remember what.
Yeah. But yeah, it's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
But they're playing for St. Patrick's Day, which is coming up.
Yep.
Yay, St. Patty's Day.
Yeah, pretty soon.
Yeah. So just be safe, folks, if you do happen to go out on that St. Patty's Day while we're talking about it.
Yeah, definitely.
Be safe. Uber. And lots and lots and lots of designated drivers.
Right.
They can put green dye in your Sprite.
Yeah.
Just as easy as put it in your beer. So.
That's true, yeah. Or, and also remember, while you're out to, have a spacer here and there if you're drinking,
Please do.
Grab a water occasionally, even if you're not driving, just for your own sake. And,
yeah.
And from a couple of old pros, pre-game and set yourself up for the post-game also, like maybe have some Advil or something on your nightstand and either have a water or a Gatorade or something there, and you'll thank yourself later for it.
As the commercials say, Pedialyte is not just
that
for
too.
kids.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah.
All right.
It's funny because I never went with Pedialyte because it's like $5 a bottle and Gatorade's like $1, So I just always went with Gatorade. But you're right. Yeah, that would absolutely work too. And probably the better move, but.
It does have more electrolytes.
Right. Less sugar.
But less sugar, more electrolytes.
Yeah.
But it is salty. And it takes a little getting used to.
Yeah.
Best really cold.
Right.
Like cold, folks.
Yep.
But it does the job.
Right. Yeah. Those tips are especially for anyone listening who's over the age of like 35 probably.
Oh yeah.
Where post gaming is as important as anything.
You ain't kidding there.
You get home, drink a big glass of water before you go to bed, take a couple of Advil or something like that to stave off a headache and
preemptive Advils. Yep.
Yeah. And then keep yourself hydrated.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, let's get into the meat and potatoes of this show and maybe steer with the alcohol, I guess.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, no.
I couldn't steer toward it if I wanted to. It's like I couldn't. Man, it's been. Whew. I mean, for Salty Language, we did a video where we tried the Bud Light Hard Seltzer soda pack that just came out, and that was a few weeks ago. That's the last time I've had anything, and I've got stuff here. I've got whiskey here and stuff, but it was I just don't tend to drink much at home,
Yeah.
So, and I've that though, I've always kind of been that way. I've never been real big on drinking at home. I mean, I have, but I'm just generally not big on. Even if someone else is there with me, I'm usually like I don't know. I just don't have as much want to do it at home. So, I guess I'm very much a social drinker. I guess.
There you go.
More so because all the other stuff was when I was young and dumb. So,
Yeah. Well, years.
Yeah, now I'm just old and dumb. Yeah. Oh man. So yeah, so the last couple weeks or week, I can't remember when we recorded last. I can't remember if it was 2 weeks ago or a week. 2 weeks? Okay. It's all just blurred to me. So
Mm-hmm. I hear you.
I think I've really been in a state of blah for the last couple weeks. It just just thinking about different stuff in life and kind of fell back into my trying to figure out what I want to do with myself and where I'm at and all that. And then, like I mentioned last time, even it was like I've kind of put myself on hold while trying to help with the other situations going on around me and being as of service as I can be. And now I'm kind of like, okay, it's like it's back to, I scheduled my doctor's appointments, but I didn't realize, like, when they scheduled me for therapy, for some reason they scheduled me at 6:00 at night, which I was like, cool, whatever, but then I got a phone call that was like, oh yeah, actually we're not open then. And I was like, yeah, I was kind of wondering about that. 'Cause, I haven't had an appointment up there at 6:00 p.m. since like when you and I used to go see Dr. Rao up there, where she would stay longer just to see, 'cause you would come after work,
Yeah.
So I haven't had any doctors offer to do that since then. So, which is fine. I'm not complaining about it, but it was like, I just thought maybe at first, like, oh, maybe one day a week they stay open a little later, that's no. So, and I called today because I have to reschedule my physical with my doctor because I was supposed to get blood work and I completely forgot to schedule it. So I have to do that Friday. And then next week I'll be seeing him. Completely forgot to reschedule my therapy though. And it stinks because, the longer I put that off, the longer it's going to be, because odds are when I call, it's going to be a month from that point.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, dang it, and it's like, I want to get that one in because I want to talk to them about the results of my ADHD evaluation and potentially, going for a more detailed diagnosis and whatever with it and whatever. But, I saw somebody post today on Twitter. They were talking about how people who are on the autism spectrum. Now, I'm going to say this with a grain of salt. Once again, we are not doctors, professionals, or whatever. This is just something I saw. I have not even had a chance to even casually look into it as something I just found interesting. Was they said they were told that some people on the spectrum can hear machinery or things or electronics like humming that others cannot hear. I've been able to do that since I was a kid, because there were times where I'd be like, do you hear that humming? And everybody else would look at me like I was crazy. And
Right.
I'm like, you don't hear it? And it'd just be, like on a microphone where you get that like,
Yep.
like, but it's real, real low. And I'd hear that and it'd be like near electrical outlets and stuff. And it's like, I swear I hear the current or I hear whatever, and people are like, or I could hear water running because there's a real high pitchedness to it, and people would be like, I don't hear anything. And I'm like, you don't hear that? So it's like, part of me wants to get a dog whistle and, see if I can hear that. Now, I'm not saying I'm on the spectrum or whatever, but it was like, I just found that interesting because it's something I definitely identify with, to where I'm like, I was like, okay, good. There's at least other people out there that have the same thing I do.
I'm not alone.
Because it is. There's times where I'll be walking by a computer or something like that, and I'll hear it'll be on like a real low hum, and I'll say something, and people will be like, "I don't hear that." I'm like, "How do you not hear that?"
Right.
But again, with misophonia, your ears don't filter, or your brain doesn't filter the way it's supposed to. So those noises are ones everybody else's brain probably just filters out, and mine just doesn't. And usually it's no big deal. Most of the time it's not. But if I'm in a completely quiet room, sometimes I'll hear stuff like that, and I'm like, oh god, like how is this not bugging anyone else? And it's like, because no one else can hear it probably. So
True.
But yeah. So yeah, I've just been I kind of feel like the last few weeks I've been sleeping longer again. I've been having some really messed up dreams. And I don't know if there's any real root cause to that other than, I've had dreams that are weird since I've been on the medicines I've been on for my anxiety and depression. So I just figure that what probably happens is like I'm probably hitting a deeper level of sleep or something like that, and during that time I start having these dreams and they're just strange.
Yeah.
Not all bad. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're just weird, and then sometimes they're, terrifying. I think I've talked on here before about I'm in a house with no doors or windows and I'm being chased by something, with no exits. So, just normal stuff.
Usual.
But yeah. But I mean, overall, I'm fine. I'm good. I just don't. I don't know. I just kind of feel like I'm drifting again.
Yeah.
And I don't like that feeling. It's because honestly, it reminds me of when I was on the first antidepressant I was on, and I just felt like I was just a zombie. Just kind of existing, and I'm kind of feeling like that again, but I don't feel like I don't think it's the medicine causing this. I think it's just where I'm at right now,
Yeah.
So, yeah. So I think, yeah, it's like I think that's about it. I was talking with a friend last night about it, and she was like, "Well, this is a good time to maybe pick up a video game you haven't played in a while, or one you've never played or something like that. Try to introduce, a book you wanted to read or, maybe." And I was like, yeah, I don't know if I have the attention span for it. I feel like right now I'm just kind of like, whatever,
Yeah.
So I don't know. We'll see.
Up get into that type of a mood.
Yeah.
You can't shake it.
Yeah. That's why I said it's not bad. It doesn't feel like a depression spiral so much, but it definitely feels like lethargy is the, feeling real lethargic. That's the best way I can put it. But it's more than that,
Mm-hmm.
Like it's a little heavier than that, but it doesn't feel like a full on depression spiral. But it probably is one way or the other. It probably is, some sort of whatever. So yeah,
All related.
yeah, exactly. So I think that's about it for me. I don't really have anything. Like I said, I don't really have anything new or exciting to talk about aside from that.
Well, my life's been pretty exciting for everybody.
That's why I figured I'd get mine out of the way first, because I knew it wasn't going to take all that long.
So, for the folks out there that don't know this by now, but my husband and I are actually getting a divorce. So we're going through that right now. It's very amicable, and and we're doing our best to be adults as much as we can, and not, obviously not wanting to hurt each other.
Yeah.
Anymore, we're already hurting each other. So we're very, very focused on that. So that's going as well as can be expected. Can't say good because, divorce is never good, but it is what it is. So I got that going on. My mom had back surgery last Wednesday, and they did 5 screws, 2 rods, and a laminectomy, and a partridge in a pear tree.
Jeez, okay.
Yeah, so the laminectomy basically means that they take material and they put material between the vertebrae to help relieve the pressure being put on the nerve endings.
Okay.
And then the rods and the screws is to hold everything in place, so it doesn't like collapse upon itself. So this was her first surgery in over 72 years.
Oh,
So
wow.
kudos to Mom for
Yeah.
living a very healthy, unbroken life. So never broke a bone. Only spent one night in the hospital when I was younger, and since she had us 2 kids. So
Wow.
yeah, she's had a really strong run.
Yeah.
Well,
Jeez.
he's never been on opioids or any heavier meds, so she's experiencing fun that comes with all that.
Right.
And yeah, she's not enjoying that aspect of things. As well as anyone who's had surgery knows that there is no preparing for that pain.
Yeah. No matter what, I'm sure. Yeah.
People can tell you everything and you get it mentally, but until you felt the pain of surgery, there's nothing like it.
Yeah.
It'll blow your mind.
Well, and especially that kind of surgery, I'm sure too, because,
Mhm.
the thank goodness, knock on whatever for me, I've only had minor surgeries. So, and don't get me wrong, they were painful enough, but I'm sure that's way worse. Yeah.
Yeah. So she's doing really good and walking around and stuff, but it's where she's requiring almost 20, well, in fact it has been 24-hour care.
Sure.
But thankfully, I have 2 wonderful aunts. She's got an amazing boyfriend, and myself, between the 4 of us, we're working out a schedule and stuff. So I haven't been home that much. And then the week before her surgery, I was cat sitting, so I wasn't home that entire week either.
Right.
So it's just been an absolute lot, and I'm overcommitted, overtired, overstressed, and oversocialized, but all for the right reasons.
Right. Yeah.
It's just, I know this is something I have to go through, but this too shall pass, as they say.
Right.
But one of the things that so I'm trying to think what else I need to tell people about. So I have all that going on. Plus, I'm attending meetings on Tuesdays. I do have a sponsor, which is going well.
Good.
I have a group that I started, a meetup group to meet people and stuff. That's twice a month. So I've got that going on. I still have the improv group, which I really haven't had a chance to get back to, but I want to.
Yeah.
I've got a lot of irons in the fire. Plus my therapy. I do that. I'm going once a week now. So I've got my therapist. So almost every single night I've got something going on, which is great and bad all in one.
Right.
It's just it's one of those things that life is just kind of crazy right now for me.
Mm-hmm.
It just is. And I'm okay with that. I'm just kind of sitting in it and just doing what I need to do and just trying to take care of myself as best as I possibly can. But yeah, it's definitely not an easy coasting part of my life right now.
Yeah, I bet.
But one of the good things that I have started doing for myself is I actually started reading a book that was recommended to us by Henno, which is called Codependent No More. And I've heard a lot about codependency, and this is our topic for this evening, folks. We've done shows on codependency before.
Right.
But I wanted to focus actually on this book, because especially the beginning of the book, because it's by Melody Beattie, which is Beattie, Melody Beattie.
I'll have a link to an Amazon link in the show notes
Mm-hmm.
for anyone who wants to check it out.
It's an older book, so it is not expensive. It's from 1987 is when she originally wrote it. And the definition for those out there who are familiar with the term, but not necessarily the definition, aka me, before I started reading this book. Here is her definition of codependency. There's a million and one definitions out there. There's a lot of different explanations. So this is just her version. She says a codependent person is one who has let another person's behavior affect him or her and who is obsessed with controlling that person's behavior. The key is the second half there. The first half, a codependent person is one who has let another person's behavior affect him or her. Well, it's kind of everybody. I mean, every relationship we've ever had, whether it's a friendship or a physical relationship or romantic relationship, we always let other people's behaviors and stuff affect us in certain ways. The key is if you get obsessed with controlling that person's behavior. So that's where the problems start coming in line.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, folks, I think a really good example is, all right, someone who has a bad temper. So they've got a bad temper, things, make them angry very quickly. So because you don't want to deal with their temper, you go out of your way to manipulate situations, AKA have them, we're not going to hang out in certain places. We're not going to do certain things. I'm going to drive all the time. Stuff like that, so that they don't get angry. They're not asking for you to manage their lives. They're not expecting you to manage their lives, at least initially. But yet we still feel the need that we have to do this. That's codependent.
Yeah.
So, signs that you are a codependent person. There is a huge list. So I'm going to just kind of give you some highlights, folks. But the first one is caretaking. Codependents may think and feel responsible for other people, for other people's feelings, thoughts, actions, choice, wants, needs, well-being, lack of well-being, and ultimate destiny. Codependents feel anxiety, pity, and guilt when others people have problems. They feel compelled, almost forced to help people solve problems, such as offering unwanted advice, giving a rapid-fire series of suggestions, or fixing feelings. They feel angry when help is ineffective. They anticipate other people's needs. But here's a big one, folks. They wonder why others don't do that for them.
Yeah.
So I'm going to stop there for a second and we can talk a little bit more about that. That's the cycle. So the codependent, so we'll go back to our initial scenario. So the person gets angry very easily. The codependent takes it upon themselves to manipulate and manage the lives of themselves and this other person so that they don't get angry.
Yeah.
In doing so, the codependent person mitigates and limits their own feelings, their own desires, their own wants and needs. The entire time, the person with the anger issue has no idea anything is going on.
Right. Or if they do, they just think that it's someone being nice, basically. Yeah.
So they don't understand the scope of this. They just see the very tip of the iceberg. They don't understand everything that's going on underneath to make their lives easier and better.
Yeah.
And so they aren't going to appreciate it because they don't know about it. How are they supposed to appreciate something they don't know?
Yeah.
But on the flip side, the codependent gets frustrated and angry because they see themselves as doing all of this stuff for this person, and this person doesn't appreciate them.
Yeah.
So it's, again, huge communication gap there, right?
Yeah. Well, and the other side, though, too, is even if the person does appreciate it and says something about it, that reinforces their behaviors.
Yeah, the codependent
that
behavior.
They should do it, like, oh, it's like you get that pat on the head and the or the attaboy, and and then you're oh, I did good, and then you want to do good again because, like you said, especially if it's someone with especially in the anger issue situation, you want them happy, not angry, so you like you said, you mitigate your own feelings and thoughts and everything just to make them happy. Because if they're happy, then you're happy because they're not mad, basically.
Yeah. So They find themselves saying yes when they mean no. They find themselves doing things they don't really want to be doing more of than their fair share of the work, and doing things other people are capable of doing for themselves. No, don't worry, I've got this, as they grumble and do the dishes.
Yeah.
We've all been there. We all know those people. We all have been those people. Not knowing what they need or want. If they do, they tell themselves they want and need is not important. They try to please others instead of themselves. They find it easier to feel and express anger about injustices done to others rather than injustices done to themselves. They feel safest when giving, feel insecure and guilty when somebody gives to them, feel sad because they spend their entire lives giving to other people and nobody gives to them. They find themselves attracted to needy people. They find needy people attracted to them. Feel bored, empty, and worthless if they don't have a crisis in their lives, problem to solve, or someone to help.
Yeah.
At this point, I'm like nodding along with the book, and I'm going, holy moly. And I guarantee those aren't the exact words I used. But as I'm reading this, I'm like, this is me. This is my life.
Yeah.
You know, feel harried in pressure, overcommit themselves. All of these things, folks, you've heard me probably talk about on this show many times over.
Right. And just also, and a lot of this stuff also falls under the name of being a people pleaser.
Yes.
You know, because people pleaser sounds more pleasant than codependent. Because people hear codependent, and I think they think like a almost like a symbiotic kind of situation or something, or like a leech type of situation, you know.
Right.
So it sounds a little more harsh than people pleaser.
Yeah, and we've just covered caretaking, folks, and that was only part of it. There's also low self-worth, repression. Repression's interesting because the repression is you push their thoughts and feelings out of their awareness because of fear and guilt. They become afraid to let themselves be who they are, appear rigid and controlled. The low self-worth, there was, I think that was the right one. Well, one of them talks about they wait for other people to share their opinions first so that they can change their opinion or adjust their opinion so that they are better liked in that situation.
Right. It's like the old, like you see the trope on TV shows where it's like, okay, we'll both say what we like on the count of 3, and the person you're talking about here would be the one who goes second, essentially. They'll let the other person say theirs and then change whatever it was they were going to say to match that person. Yeah.
Independency. Latch on to whoever and whatever they think can provide happiness. Feel terribly threatened by the loss of anything or person they think provides their happiness. They don't feel love and approve from their parents. Don't love themselves. Believe other people can't or don't love them. Desperately seek love and approval. I see a pattern here.
Yeah.
Often seek love from people incapable of loving. Oh boy. All sorts of fun stuff there under dependency.
Yeah.
Poor communication. That makes sense. We just talked about that.
Yeah.
Weak boundaries. Lack of trust. Anger. Even sex problems. Miscellaneous. Be extremely irresponsible. They are extremely responsible. Become martyrs, sacrificing their happiness in that for others because they don't require sacrifice. Find it difficult to feel close to people, find it difficult to be fun and spontaneous, have an overall passive response to codependency, crying, hurt, helplessness. Combine passive and aggressive responses, facilitate decisions and emotions, stay loyal to the compulsions and people even when it hurts. It's all this craziness. Not to seek help because they tell themselves the problem isn't bad enough or they aren't important enough. Like all this stuff that I have said to myself so many times that, and don't get me wrong, not everything I've mentioned here applies to me.
Yeah.
Everything I mentioned in this book is going to apply to you. But the key is if you get, more than not out of the group, then it's something you should look into.
Mm-hmm.
Because of this, and number one reason, it is a progressive disorder. What that means is the later stages of codependency will get worse. If you do not address this, you do not take care of it in a timely fashion, it will get worse and it'll make things so hard. You will feel lethargic, depressed, become withdrawn and isolated, experience a complete loss of daily routine and structure, abuse or neglect children or other responsibilities, feel hopeless, begin to plan their escape from relationships they feel trapped in, think about suicide, become violent, become seriously emotionally, mentally, or physically ill, experiencing an eating disorder, over or under eating, and become addicted to alcohol and other drugs as a coping mechanism. And when you think about all of that stuff, it can describe all of us in some ways, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Is everybody codependent? I don't think so, but it could be. I don't know. I'm still learning, just like you guys are. But it is definitely an interesting thought pattern. Something else my brain went to is a lot of this stuff ties right up with my empath abilities, ties right on up there with my bipolar, my social anxiety, all my mental health stuff can be wrapped up in this whole codependency.
Yeah.
Now, how does codependency begin? It actually usually starts it's a learned behavior. It's not a disease that is acquired. It is actually learned behavior that we learn traditionally at an early age, but can come on at any given point. Usually it is involving being around someone with an addiction, with anger issues, alcoholism, gambling, just to name a few things. But basically situations where there's such a strong negative side effect that you want to avoid it at all costs. So you go out of your way to do things to prevent the negative behaviors of the other person.
Mm-hmm.
Ta-da! Codependency is born.
Yeah. The nice part about that is that if it's anything that's a learned behavior can be reprogrammed, essentially. It takes a lot of work, takes a lot of time, may take therapy, but it can be unlearned and reset, basically. So there is at least that. It's not something that you have to deal with the rest of your life in the sense of, like you were saying, that it just gets worse and worse and worse. There is ways to work on it, but it was similar like when I was talking with my therapist about core values or core beliefs, right? The things that are essentially instilled in us when we're children. And even though we bring our own experiences to these things, a lot of times those are the foundations on which we are built. And you can change those things, but the problem is that since they were built into you sometimes when you were a child, like us, we're in our 40s, that's a lot of years to unbuild, to rebuild, essentially. So, don't misunderstand that there's, it can take some time to really do things, and it may be very difficult. You may have to avoid some things for a while, much like anything, like if it's an addiction type of situation, because this really kind of is like an addiction. You get addicted to, helping someone else or whatever it is, kind of thing. So you very well can get to where you've got to, maybe take yourself back to basics, reset, and then, like I said, start building upon your new foundation going forward. Or like when you start setting boundaries,
Yep.
You know, when you start setting firm boundaries with people, there's tons of pushback and, well, you've never like blah, blah, blah this before. And you're like, yeah, I know, but now I care about myself, or now I'm
Yeah.
really focusing on, you know, that my feelings and who I am are important also. I'm not just taking your feelings into account. And, you know, so it can be tough because, again, with this will come boundary setting. And boundary setting is very hard for a lot of us, you know, especially for somebody who always wants to say yes.
Mhm.
You know, like, you know, when you go to, you know, like when you're in, oh shoot, I forgot what it's called already. Improv. You know, there's no no period in
Yeah.
improv. There's yes and there's no period. And you know,
Yes.
so and it's similar in this to where you start saying no and people, well, why? It's like, I don't owe you an answer. No is my or a response. No is my answer. You know, and people have a really hard time with that. So like I said, be prepared to really do some work on yourself and really focus on yourself for a while. And, you know, in the end, it's worth it because you'll realize that what'll happen is you'll see also that you'll have a lot less toxic people in your life because
Yeah.
toxic people don't tend to stick around people who have firm boundaries and
Very.
who really put their feelings up there as important as someone else's. You
Mhm.
know, they look for people who prioritize, you know, oh, like being afraid they won't have a friend or this or that, you know. So like I said, in the long run it's good for you, but there definitely can be some growing pains in the meantime, but don't let that sway you.
Right.
You know, you got to stay the course. It's tough, I'm sure. I haven't really done it all that well. I've you know, boundaries I've been working on for years. And I've gotten a lot better about a lot of my boundaries that I didn't used to set. Now I set and, you know, don't lose sleep over whether someone's going to worry or whatever they think about me after I
Yeah.
set that boundary. So,
It's hard to do. I
yep.
mean, I am no good at it.
Yeah.
I obsess on
Well,
everything.
most people pleasers aren't, you know,
Yeah.
that's like I said, that's the reason that people pleasers become doormats is
Mhm.
there's no boundary there. You know, people,
Exactly.
they'll just keep stepping on you.
So I know it's kind of a shorter episode, folks, but um,
Well, I
just
do want to say real quick before we
yeah.
go into wrap up, I'll have in the show notes, I'll have a link to the book Jen's talking about. I'll have a link to our episode 233, which is the one where we talked longer about codependency, which had Heno on it also. There's a whole bunch of links in the show notes for that episode for like coda.org, Psych Central, where they talk about symptoms of codependency. I remember Heno talking about the drama triangle, which I don't remember what that is at this point, but I remember us talking about it. So all that stuff will be in the show notes for anyone who wants to dig more into this. And of course, if you feel like this is something that really does speak to you, or if you get the book and blah, 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 you know, please reach out to a mental health professional to see if you know, if you feel like you need some help along the way on this, because, you know, some of these roads are hard to traverse on your own. And sometimes, you know, like I've said about therapy, it's just nice to have that person that just kind of every once in a while pops up and is just like, hey, head back that way. You know,
Mhm.
like you're going the wrong way. Let's get you back over here. Oh yeah, okay.
There was somebody in one of my meetings, and I won't say who, and I won't really give much about their share
Right,
because anonymous.
right.
But their share became my wallpaper and my lock screen
Yeah.
pic, and it's, "Are you done yet?" What it means is, are you done hurting yourself yet?
Right.
Done hurting the people around you yet?
Mm.
Are you done, destroying your life? Are you done ripping things apart? Do you got anything left? Are you done?
Yeah.
Are you ready?
Right.
And it was such a strong message for me when I stopped and I applied it to so many different things going on in my life right now. And I was flat out asked, "Are you done yet?" And I said, "I don't know. I can't. I can only do one a day at a time."
Right.
He said, "I can't make promises into the future
Sure.
yet. I'm
Yep.
just not there yet." And it was interesting to put on the spot like that. But folks, I question you and I challenge you. Are you done yet? Are you ready?
Yeah.
Are you ready to face the codependency? Are you ready to face the stuff that you've got to work on? Is it your time?
Yeah.
Happy. But are you ready? Is it your time? Are you going to stop?
Yeah. Something else too. I was just thinking of. Sorry, I don't mean to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, you're good.
I just wanted to make sure I said that for people who may think of like going to therapy to help with this, I want them to understand that just because you go to therapy to talk about something that was formed when you were a child doesn't mean you have to talk about all the way back to that point.
Yes.
You very much can just work on what comes in front of you in therapy. Because that stuff has already been done. And the goal going forward is when you run up against a scenario, how do you think about it then?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how you would have thought about it 10 years ago. It's like, how do you approach it now? Can you reframe it now? Can you set your boundary now? Even if you couldn't for years, I just want people to know that, because I know a lot of people think you have to go into therapy and unpack like your whole life. And for some people they do, because there's things they need to unpack and work on. But in this kind of scenario, a lot of times, same with like anxiety, a lot of times you don't necessarily have to go way back to work on your anxiety. You can just focus on what makes you anxious now. And let's work on changing your behaviors with that and going forward. And those things can make massive differences in your life. So, like I said, I just don't want people to think that, they just want me to come in so that, I'll gripe about my childhood. And it's like, they may ask you questions because that helps them understand maybe better where something comes from. But, they don't have to have every detail of every story from your whole life, like every time that you did that to understand that you have a tendency.
Right. Exactly.
Or, if that's what it takes, that's also fine.
I mean, I'm working on, excuse me, sorry. I'm working on, right now with my therapist, unpacking some stuff. And she's like, don't start in the past, start in the present.
Right.
And work your way back.
Yeah.
And then once we figure out what we need to work on, then we stop there.
Yeah.
And then we need to go further back, we'll go further back. But you always want to start with the most present situations.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why I said it's like, because you really don't in a lot of ways need to go all the way back to fix things, because it really, there's not any real win in going through every time that, like me, when we work on like my self-esteem, sometimes I got to go way back and tell a story or whatever because it's relevant. But a lot of times it's more of where I've been more currently the last 5 years or 3 years or something like that, and working on it from there. Because again, the other stuff does, but it doesn't really matter. But it's all about how you're feeling now.
Yeah.
Know? So, and it's like I was thinking the other day about how I've said in therapy and stuff different times how I wish I could get back to being the way I was when I was like 25, to where if someone said, do you want this? And I'd be like, yeah, let's do it. Let's go. And it was like, yeah, but I was doing that to try to be popular, to fit in, to blah, blah, blah. It's like, I wasn't doing a lot of that stuff because I really wanted to. There was quite a bit that I did just because it was like, well, that's what everyone else is doing, so I'm going to go jump off a bridge, like, and it's like, it's taken me this long to really focus on that and see that and go, this is not something I should be striving for,
Very true.
So, that's why I said it's sometimes you do have to go back and think about stuff, and other times it's best to just leave the past alone because you don't want to ruminate. But yeah, anyway, yeah. But again, having a decent therapist, they'll kind of help guide you through a lot of that too, because if you're just telling stuff that's not really doing any good, like mine sometimes has kind of been like, well, what about this is, affecting you now? And there's been times where she's asked that and I'll be like, huh, like, well, that's where it started, but it's really not affecting me now,
Right.
So it's like, okay, well, let's set that aside for now and let's get back to,
Yep.
yeah.
Back to the basics.
Yep.
All right. Well, folks, we covered a lot of topics, a lot of different interesting conversations on the show so far. So, what I'm asking of you is if you would like to continue the conversation with us, which we would love for you to do, you can reach us at thecrazylifepodcast.weebly.com. You can also reach us at
thecrazylifepodcast@outlook.com.
Thank you.
Yep.
Our email,
Mhm.
thecrazylifepodcast@outlook.com.
That's why I always pull my list up when we're doing this. My memory's not that good. I just have all the words in front of me.
Those are the main two sites that you can reach out to us. If you would like to reach me directly, feel free to send me a message through either one of those and just address it direct to me, and I get it, and I'll be happy to respond to you. So please reach out. We'd love to hear from you, and your thoughts and your opinions and your constructive feedback is always welcome.
Yeah.
With that, Brian, how can they reach you?
You can also find the show on Twitter at the Crazy Life Pod and on Facebook at facebook.com/group/Crazy Life Podcast. And like Jen said, if you reach out to either of those, I don't know if you see messages on the Facebook or not, but either way, I'll make sure that, if something's sent for her that, it'll get to her. You can find my other show on Twitter at salty_language or at saltylanguage.com. That's just me and my best friend talking about, what we talk about this week? A bunch of pop culture stuff. Like we talked about Starlight Coke, the show Our Flag Means Death, Elden Ring, the video game. John DiMaggio is, now signed on to be back with the new reboot of Futurama. Just, mostly pop culture this week, but just whatever we kind of happens to us in our lives and whatever. So if you're into that, please check us out. The show's not safe for work, so be careful of that. If you want to find me on Twitter, you can find me at Twitter or Instagram at Stunami. You can find Heno over on Twitter at Ida Heno. His other podcast, which is Moving the Needle, can be found on Twitter at MTN Pod. I'm sorry. And the last episode I know they posted was comparing two of Richard Donner's movies, which I cannot remember. It was Conspiracy Theory, and I absolutely cannot remember the other one off the top of my head. But anyways, go check that out. Let's see. We're part of the Tangent Bound Network, which can be found at tangentboundnetwork.com. So please go check out the other shows on there. Whew. And, as I said earlier, if you need help, please reach out. There's all sorts of help out there for you. And, like I said, there'll be notes in the, I'll have some stuff in the show notes, or if you go check out that episode 223 of ours, there's a whole bunch of links in the show notes for that also. Especially like if you do feel you're codependent and you will want to do group versus a therapy, there's coda.org, so you can probably find groups in your area or online or something like that. And then of course, just please try to be nice to each other and, try to help. Like if you're in a position right now, if, there's all sorts of people needing help that are, fleeing Ukraine and all sorts of stuff, if you can help that, just please make sure you do the research before you donate so that you don't, get fleeced. I know there's a chef by the name of Jose Andres out there that his group is feeding refugees as they're coming across the border into Poland. And he's a well-known chef. He's been a well-known chef for a long time. His group, I forgot the name of it, but they do all sorts of stuff like that all the time throughout the world. So that seems to be a good one. But, even locally, I was out to eat with my mom last night, and a woman sitting across from us, when it came time for her to get the bill, the server came up and told her that somebody had already bought her dinner for her. So, and the woman, was surprised, and she even said that was the second day in a row that it happened to her.
Oh, wow.
I guess the previous day she had gone somewhere else and someone had bought her dinner. So she's like, I guess I'm just very blessed right now. So, even something like that, put a smile on someone's face and maybe help them out a little bit. So, yeah, there you go. Just try not to be a jerk. We got way too much animosity and hate going on right now, and just yucky stuff in the news, and just, try to put some good out there.
Amen to that. All right, folks. Well, it's about that time. So, go out there. Have the best, safest week, please, that you can possibly have. And, don't forget, wiggle those toes.